If you are married and the keks isn't good, and for all my Balkan people and some Scandinavian people, I'm not talking about chocolate or candy. Am I? I'm talking about the other type of candy. Wink, wink. Does it mean that your marriage is a lie? Is the person that you thought is your right partner actually the wrong one? Or is it a lie that if you find your true love, or if you are really in love with someone, all aspects of your life should fit in perfectly? Now, if your partner is struggling to see you as both respected and desired, how do you fix it?
Come on, Charlotte. You're my wife. That's not you. Take it off.
How do you fix it when the person who is struggling to see you as both the most is you yourself?
I don't know if I can do that.
Yes, you can. Come on, you're sexy. He should see you.
Well, let's see how Charlotte is dealing with this dilemma in her should-be perfect marriage with Trey. But mostly, how is she dealing with the dilemma she has with herself? You know how we do it here. We narrate, we analyze, we often judge. And we do believe that we know better and would do better. Hopefully. Trey's schooner is dying and Charlotte's libido is growing.
The wind died.
And not only that, the night before, while she was lying next to her husband, she got so turned on that she almost started to pleasure herself right next to him. Right there in the bed while he's snoring. She would just, go down to town. Is that an expression?
Right next to my husband. I feel so ashamed.
And yes, of course she feels ashamed about it. But then on the other hand, she's kind of frustrated also. Like, what in the double standard is going on here? Like, he can watch the magazines, flip through it, and release himself. But her, she's just, what? Left with nothing?
He masturbates and he reads porn. But when it comes to dealing with me, nothing.
The same way we broke it down in the last video, Samantha is seeing it clearly. It's the Madonna complex.
Trey sees you as his virginal wife, not his sexual plaything.
He sees Charlotte as something pure, a wife material, and a wife is not a sexual being. Charlotte is shook it, and honestly, she's kind of doubting that she can ever make herself be more, sexual and more desirable. Like, how to even do that? The girls are kind of surprised because, Charlotte, Biz, you are a sexy thing. You can do this. And I don't know why I say that like that.
You're something to see.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I want to talk about the first part, right? The feeling ashamed, which is kind of, understandable, but also, should it be understandable? I came up with two reasons why this could be happening, right? And the first one is that she herself internalized this, pure wifey material. And, it's not good to pleasure yourself in front of your husband. As a wife, she shouldn't be so openly sexual. I mean, how will Trey look at her then? How will she be the good wife she's expected to be and she wants to be? And then there's the reason number two, which is this idea of having pleasure without your husband in this case, or without your significant other. And it almost feels like you are cheating, right? It almost feels like, why should I do this when I have a partner and he's the one or she's the one who should be, fulfilling me in that way? And that could come again from two different things. This I'm analyzing, okay? And the first thing is that the idea of marriage itself, especially in Charlotte's views, right? And I would say in most of us, how we view it, right? Like, of course, you will experience intimacy with your husband. And if you don't, question mark, what kind of marriage is it? Now, is it okay to be so black and white? And should we be more open into exploring how to be better at it and so on? Because that is a thing, okay? I think that maybe sexual relations are almost the same as love. It's almost like we're expected to know it in some way. And that's not really the case. Like, you still learn how to I guess, do it or how to communicate with your partner and so on. But for Charlotte, if she starts pleasuring herself, even next to Trey, what does that mean for her marriage? What does that mean for this perfect love story? She's kind of admitting that this is not it. And is she ready to do so? The second thing could be, and honestly, in my personal opinion, I think that one is the most real. I would see it as a thing when it comes to Charlotte. And it's just not wanting to give another hit at Trey's self-esteem. She does not want him to feel bad about the situation. She does not want him to feel even more emasculated because he already expressed how, this is a problem and he doesn't want to talk about it. It's been a wall from his side for, quite some time. So on some level, she probably does not want to hit it again. And this could come from another little belief that creeps in and maybe Charlotte is hanging on to. And it is the pure fact that as a woman or as a wife, as a good wife, you protect your husband. You protect your husband's pride. It's this idea of preserving a man's ego. And now sometimes can be really damaging to your own self, right? To your own needs and your own identity. Now, at the same time, the frustration that she is feeling because Trey can do it and she doesn't, and we're all like, "Bis, that's so unfair," is also a little bit her perception, right? We never see Charlotte actually testing that boundary. We never see Charlotte talking to Trey about it, right? That she as a woman also has her needs, and how would it make him feel if she would, do it on her own or whatever. She just decided that on her own. Trey can do it, but if I do it, then I'm going to be seen as a bad wife or a bad woman. And I just don't know how to handle that. And the fact that she never really talks about it with him or we don't see it just shows again how internalized her double standards are. And she doesn't even recognize it. Now, people, let's not pretend that we do not know Charlotte. I mean, we know all about her adventure with the vibrator for the first time.
Oh, I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna have to cancel. Yeah, I'm totally wiped out.
Uh-huh. Wiped out. That was Charlotte speak for, "I'm spending the night with my vibrator."
The woman got so hooked on it, she didn't leave the room until her friends kind of dragged her out.
Okay, where is it?
What are you talking about? The rabbit, Charlotte. Give us the rabbit.
So we know that she is in touch with her sensual side. We know that she knows what are her needs and how she can satisfy herself. That's not a problem. So what is? Well, at that time, it was all about her privacy. In that time, she learned how she can actually feel those feelings independently of a man being with her in the way she wants to feel it, the way she wants to experience it. There was no guilt, there was no shame attached to it because it was private and she was okay with that. But she's not okay with that in front of her partner, in front of her husband. And we could even say that experience was almost disconnected from her identity as a wife. She was a single person, right? But now when she has this identity of a wife, the idea of being sensual in front of Trey, it's just, it's not really comfortable, which could tell us that Charlotte's thinking that she is unable to be that way in front of Trey, to show her own sensuality, is not so much about her not being in tune with that or her understanding that. It's more about permission. It's more about her feeling good and okay if someone else sees that. But the days continue and it's another night and another rainy season and no towel for Charlotte. And yes, I just said that. She's having a lunch or brunch or I don't know what with her girlfriends. And the more Samantha is talking about her grand escapades, her crazy nights, and her almost detachment from the intimacy of sexual pleasure, the more Charlotte is pissed.
How can you not know anything about him? You slept with him.
And Samantha is like, sweetie, correction, I effed him.
He made me come 6 times. It's good enough for me.
Stop it.
This pisses Charlotte even more because what does she mean? Sex is supposed to be something special.
That's supposed to happen between two people who love each other.
Or two people who love sex.
Oh my God, you're such a...
A what? What am I, Charlotte?
Charlotte is so over it. Like, when will Samantha learn that you can't just sleep with anyone that passes you? But Samantha strikes back. At least she's getting laid, okay?
And you can forget Samba.
Bess, when Samantha and Charlotte clash, what clashes is also all the beliefs that a lot of people have, right? The uncommitted, just having fun, really living for whatever you want and having a pleasure however you want it, versus this is a sacred thing between two people and it should be like that. Now, I don't know about your personal beliefs. How do you see the situation? But clearly, clearly Charlotte is frustrated. And her frustration can be connected 100% with what she is experiencing now with Trey, with her husband, right? But there are, again, two sides or two perspectives how we could see it. Or maybe it's even, one and the other. The first one is that Samantha is naturally, effortlessly this playful thing, let's say. This person who embodies sensualism, and men see her easily like that. Men easily want to be with her. And Charlotte just hates that. On some level, Charlotte resents that Samantha is so open with it when she herself isn't, when she feels like she needs to hide it from other people. And not only how Charlotte internalizes those beliefs, but also how Trey is not allowing her to express herself like that, because he always just shuts it down. But then the other reason why she's so frustrated is also what she was saying. The very fact that the two of them, Trey and Charlotte, cannot experience this together could be the very reason for this marriage not working, for him not being the right husband, or for her not being the right partner. The whole situation between the two of them went so quickly. They got engaged after a month. It was very clear, we want this, Charlotte wants this, he wants this, and they just matched perfectly on the paper. And the whole idea was that this is the soulmate. This is when you actually meet the right person, and you will meet the right person. So when her idea of that is almost now challenged because there's a huge part of it that it's not fulfilled, it frustrates her that she is now reminded that just because you think someone is your soulmate or is your perfect partner, or this is supposed to be true love, it does not mean that everything will just fit. And if she believes that the only great pleasure and the only great intimacy you can achieve with your partner, the fact that she cannot do that with her partner, but she sees Samantha doing it with whoever, that literally challenges her beliefs. And she does not want to accept that. Samantha is almost kind of representing a contradiction to Charlotte's belief that if two people are in love, then automatically intimacy will work. So all her beliefs in how perfect the two of them coming together was, how fated it was, it went fast because they are just meant for each other, all of it is a lie. So we could say that Charlotte's frustrations are coming from a layer of things, and Samantha is triggering that. First being that her own desires are not being met, and it's been some time, and she has been trying, but nothing is happening. The fact that Trey himself has no problem sexualizing other people, no problem getting pleasure in that way, and for him all is good, while at the same time he is denying her that, and not only denying her that, but she herself denies herself that. And then seeing Samantha with all this freedom and not being burdened by these things and seeing it very casual, let's say, or if I have needs, I'm gonna meet them and that's it. There's no shame about it. It just plays even more into her feeling very, very annoyed. But the reality that is driving all of this is the internalized and the externalized beliefs that are kind of happening between Trey and Charlotte. What is a good wife allowed to do and what she shouldn't do. Now, Charlotte has a mission. She has decided she's going to take things in her own hands.
I'm going to get him to notice me, Carrie. I have to.
I think that's a bottom.
Oh.
If Trey cannot see her as a sensual being, she's gonna make him see her as a thing. And she goes with her best friend Carrie to do some shopping. Now, when they're shopping, Carrie makes an interesting comment.
Why not go La Perla or something a little more upscale and a little less flammable?
Check something a little bit more upscale. Now, I'll be honest, I was a little bit like, Bess, what does she mean? What is she trying to say? The thing is that Charlotte is now pursuing someone she isn't.
I don't want to be me. I want to be someone else.
Charlotte is not trying to pursue or to figure out or be more comfortable in how expressing herself as a more sensual being, right? Or being, but how she can be someone else. And that's exactly what she says. She says that she needs to be as far away from Charlotte as she can be when she's trying to, seduce Trey. And that's where the whole problem lies. Because it's not about Charlotte needs to be someone else for Trey to feel a certain way towards her. It's about her understanding and accepting that she is all those things. She is a good wife, she is a good partner, she is a good woman, and she is a being. She wants pleasure. She expresses pleasure. She knows how to get pleasure. But right now, she's more like, I need to detach from my identity of Charlotte because Trey sees me like that, and we need to, fix things.
I want to be Call Girl meets Park Avenue.
Now, Carrie is honestly, Carrie is not that interested, it seems like, in helping Charlotte. To be honest, sometimes I get this vibe. I don't know if it's intentional or just, how they act out the scenes, that Carrie is so over the problems that Charlotte has with Trey. It's almost like, in a way, because she herself is dealing with some things when it comes to being good enough for a guy and so on, that she looks at Charlotte and almost like not pleased with it, but she dismisses her because the whole thing is dismissible, right? The whole marriage with Charlotte, the whole meeting this perfect guy, it's almost like, whatever, right? Am I reading too much into it?
This is important to me, Carrie. I need him to see me
I know you do, sweetie. I'm just not sure I need to.
So basically, she should suggest that she shouldn't do this shopping with Carrie, but she should call Samantha. But Charlotte she is not ready to deal with Samantha right now.
Please, I need a break from her.
Now, Carrie reminds her that she was also a little bit, it takes two to tango. But Charlotte is dealing with so much things right now. She has so many things on her plate that the last thing she needs is now also feel guilty about, how she treated Samantha at that lunch that they had. So she just wants to dismiss it.
I have enough problems in my life right now. I really don't need any lectures.
And honestly, you can kind of understand it. Sometimes when you feel like you are failing in life, let's say, even if it's not connected, but usually it is connected, if there is another thing that is making you feel like you're in the wrong or that you are doing, you're failing also in that aspect, it's almost like you cannot acknowledge it. Like if Charlotte right now is feeling like not adequate as a wife, because she cannot be like, Trey doesn't see her as a sensual being. It's almost like her identity, her authentic self is attacked in some way. It is not enough. She literally needs to be someone else for her to experience intimacy with her husband. The fact that she's being mean to Samantha right now and she's projecting on her frustrations, it's just too much. It's too much of, I'm not good enough, I'm doing things wrong, and she does not want to deal with it, or she does not know how to handle it. We can even say how consuming this whole thing is for her life. It's not only about having sex with Trey, it's about her whole identity and how she is seen, how she is loved by Trey, how they connect, Charlotte is probably the person who wants to connect on different levels, emotional, physical, but Trey is not giving her that. And she desperately wants to fix it because it almost became a measure to how good her marriage is, or even how genuine their marriage is, or how genuine Trey's love for Charlotte actually is. Now, the reality is that Charlotte is not actually battling with Samantha, with Trey, or which lingerie will be the right one. It's actually fighting with herself and giving herself permission to be fully who she is, even in front of her husband. And until she figures that out, it's going to be wonky. Now, because as I mentioned, Carrie's a little bit nonchalant, Samantha is also, it's totally opposite from Charlotte when it comes to this. She needs to feel a little bit at home. She needs to get to her old self, or not so much old self, but she needs to get in touch with some of her old friends. People who think like her, people who live like her, right? Just, copies of Charlotte.
The Sisters of Kappa Kappa Gamma.
Oh my goodness, has it been forever or what?
It has.
She goes to lunch and honestly, she feels good. She feels good that she is surrounded by people that kind of understand her.
Welcome to the Married Old Gals Club.
AKA people who are married, right? And does better than everyone else and can actually help Charlotte in her frustrations.
I remember being a newlywed. We hardly ever got out of bed.
She is probably having the time of her life, especially in those newlywed days. You see, these girls experience non-stop. Their husbands couldn't get enough of them. Now, the story is a little bit different. Charlotte is glumping that martini and she cannot take it anymore.
My husband can't get it up.
Now, all the ladies are shooked. They're shooked by what Charlotte is saying and probably also about the situation. Or maybe just what Charlotte is saying. Who knows? But Charlotte is not stopping.
I'm so frustrated.
Charlotte?
I mean, don't you ever just want to be really pounded hard?
Charlotte does not see the whiteness on their faces. She wants to experience that crazy, sweaty, when the pounding is so hard that her head is hitting on the headboard and it's just the perfect concussion. She is so desperate to be effed, to literally just be effed.
Damn it, I just really want to be just really.
But you know what? Like I said, these are her people. These are the friends that are very similar to Charlotte. And they react very similarly to Charlotte. This is inappropriate and she needs to pull herself together.
This is really inappropriate.
Yeah. We're eating.
What's wrong with you, Charlotte? You're such a...
What? What am I, Sydney?
Charlotte gets it now. She gets that they are so different. They change so much. They are totally different types of people and she doesn't feel like home. She doesn't feel like them. She actually feels more like Samantha. And in some weird way, to them, she became the Samantha. She leaves her money in the martini glass and she walks away like the badass she is. Now, we can say that this moment is kind of significant for Charlotte because she realizes that there are certain expectations that she's not willing anymore to play into. She understands that she's outgrown these society rules or how is she supposed to act or how she is supposed to be seen. And maybe she's getting more in touch in accepting that there's more to her than just that. But there's a question here. Her sudden appreciation of being the Samantha of the group, despite having so much against Samantha or being frustrated by how she triggers her with her lifestyle, it makes me wonder, would she have this approach? Would she understand Samantha better or would she be more in touch with herself if everything would be okay in the marriage? If her and Trey would not have these problems, would she still see Samantha as someone who is like totally irresponsible and she's just sleeping around and that's not okay? Or would she again experience this growth where she's not judging Samantha and she's appreciating her for her openness? Is Charlotte's acceptance of her being more like Samantha in comparison to her other friends a real thing, or is it just a reaction to a problem she has? Are we changing our beliefs and our morals just based on what it suits us? It is a coping mechanism when we are in difficult times, I would say, to almost wish that we would be like someone else and we would admire that person because they're kind of embodying the solution of your problems. But sometimes it could also reveal the deeper desires that we have ourselves, right? In this case, It's not about that Charlotte was always a rebellion by heart or always was different or always was, in touch with her sensuality or blah, 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 right? Or she was always like Samantha in some way and now she's gonna be like that, whatever. But it's more about the desire to be less restricted. She's still Charlotte, but she is finding out that she does not like all these rules that are around her and how she is putting herself in a certain box to be seen in a certain way when that's not really serving her. Maybe this is just a way for Charlotte to recognize that she herself is craving more authenticity in front of her husband even. Maybe having a friend like Samantha helps her embody some of that courage that Samantha has to be unapologetically herself. Now this new awakening and this badass moment makes its way also into their bedroom. Trey is lying on the bed and he's reading. And Charlotte steps out from the bathroom in this nice red-black lingerie.
Hey.
Now Trey looks up and he is like, no.
What in God's name are you wearing?
It's supposed to be sexy.
Trey can't believe it. Like, she is making such a fool out of herself. She is his wife. So she should take that off.
Come on, Charlotte. You're my wife. That's not you. Take it off.
This boy. Oh, how it pissed me off. What do you mean that's not you? Who are you to tell her what she is or she is not? The audacity. Like, again, as we talked extensively in my last video on Charlotte and Trey, this man is, clearly there are misogynistic beliefs here that are driving this whole situation. Like I mentioned also before, the whole thing of seeing her as a sex being, right, versus being a good wife. Like, he does not want to even play with that thought, right? It's like, no, take it off. That's not you. But what pissed me even more off and what emphasizes even more his views is that's not you. Basically rejecting that side of Charlotte. Him deciding that does not exist. And it is also so manipulative because he's literally denying that part of Charlotte. Like, she's trying to be vulnerable. She's trying to show herself as a full being with every desire that she has. And he's like, no, that's not you. And I decide so. Are you freaking kidding me? And again, it shows how he really expects his wife to be or a good woman to be with no desires. Because the fact that she's even trying this, it's not for her, it's for him, and he doesn't want it. He totally neglects that she is genuinely trying to fix their intimacy, trying to feel equal in this marriage, also when it comes to their bad connection. I can't even believe how casually Trey is seen to dismiss her efforts. Like, he knows they have this problem, and yet he's just like, that's not you, and goes back to his magazine. Like, are you freaking crazy? It again confirms this reality of how he actually sees Charlotte not equal at all, even though he's a good husband, even though he gives everything that a good husband should give. But if you actually look at it, he doesn't. He does not respect her wishes. He does not acknowledge her desires. And that's the sign of how a man actually sees a woman. Not if he's buying her the things, if he's, pulling out the chair when she sits down, if he's good to her and, the husband material. No, show me when it comes to respecting me as a full human. Show me when you're actively trying to fulfill my desires and my needs as much as we are doing it for you. It pisses me off, these things, seriously. It really does, because it's like, man, there's, for some people or for some characters in this case, right? There's such a long way in actually understanding what does equality mean. And honestly, when it comes to Trey and Charlotte, this should be the wake-up call for Charlotte in this very moment. Because if you think about it, Trey is fulfilling what he needs to fulfill, and that's it, right? He still has the wife, the good wife. He still can preserve this image, right, of a good family, a good marriage, and he still can indulge in his sexual fantasy or releasing himself the way he wants to. For him, everything is okay, but he denies that for Charlotte. Again, that's when you see that he is not seeing this person as an equal. It's not about her and lingerie and how she will be seen and how she will be comfortable to be a certain way in front of him. It's about his misogynistic views and how they drive everything. And with this reaction from Trey, we see Charlotte very vulnerable. She has tears in her eyes, but then something happens. Those tears almost disappear, and there's another expression on her face. The expression of determination.
Fine.
This is not me, right? This lingerie is not me. She takes it off and she's standing like that in front of Trey. If Trey refuses to see her sensuality wrapped in lace and satin, then she's gonna face him with her body directly.
Charlotte.
Trey dismisses her again. And the vibe is like she's a little girl who's embarrassing herself. And he starts looking at the book or the magazine again. But Charlotte is determined. He is gonna look at her.
Look at me.
Now, this is a very, very powerful moment because it's Charlotte asserting herself in this relationship with Trey. And she is confronting and not letting Trey just avoid the situation again. She's taking her stance and she's very confident in it. She is determined that he is gonna see her as her full self, her authentic self. And maybe for the first time. Trey kind of reluctantly raises his head and he looks at Charlotte.
This is me. I'm not a Madonna and I'm not a whore. I'm your wife and I'm sad and I love you.
And this is the moment when we see Charlotte finally overcoming this actual discomfort that she was feeling, seeing herself both as respected and desirable. And she's claiming that in front of Trey, that she is both and he will see her as both. And this act is not only resisting the, let's say, limiting beliefs that Trey has, but also the oppression that she might feel as a woman in the society she's living in. Now, Trey is looking at Charlotte and she slides her hand down her belly.
What are you doing?
I'm touching myself.
So we have another transformative moment where she's not anymore waiting for permission from Trey to show what her needs are, to, in this case, pleasure herself. She's not hiding it. She's not keeping it as this sacred thing that she only has and is allowed to explore in her, solitude, let's say. But she's openly there and being comfortable in expressing it in front of her husband. And this helps.
I think we have a stiff breeze.
They finally do it, and she is excited to have a call.
Hello?
Well, he f***ed me.
Oh, honey, that's great. I knew you could do it.
Now, did it last? Maybe not really. It did last a minute and a half, but it was a step forward. People, it's new territory for Trey. He needs some time to adjust. It's like he's doing it all over again. So we could say that Trey finally broke through this, let's say, Madonna complex, and he fully sees Charlotte, a full being with all parts of herself. Maybe for the first time, her authentic self, not just the image that she portrayed or that he saw or that he wanted in a wife. Now, when she calls Samantha, this is also a way, almost like an homage or, acknowledging that Samantha's freedom did inspire Charlotte to also find her own freedom in sensuality. And Samantha's question,
Did you come? Samantha?
is also a reminder that, two people coming together is not just about this grand connection and intimacy and true love coming together, but it's also about just having your own satisfaction and pleasure and feeling good, having your sensual needs met. If we get a little bit deep, it's about your own self-love also. I would even say that in this very moment, even though, the result is that they finally did it, it's not about that. It's not about Trey finally being able to, harbor in the sails. It's about Charlotte giving herself permission to be sensual, to be sexual, to take care of her happiness and not waiting for Trey to allow her to do that. And here's the thing. It also shows us that when we are ready to accept and to share our individuality, our authentic self, and stand in it, the people around you will have to accept it. And if they can't accept it, and if they can't adapt to it, then maybe it's time to make space for those who will. Also, always be good to one another. Every time I say this, there is a part of me that almost feels like I have to also add that it does not mean that you need to be selfish and not care about other people. Okay, you can be your individual self, accept yourself, show up for yourself, and still be kind to others. Okay. Sometimes I feel like people just take those things and run in the other direction, which is not okay. Okay. But let me know in the comments below, have you experienced struggling with your own sensuality and expressing it in front of the other partner, let's say, significant other, or even with yourself? What was your journey? Are you still on that journey? And what insights did you get from Charlotte and Trey's own journey? And as Charlotte showed us this time, remember, trust your individuality.